अस्सलाम वालेकुम आप सबको US Consulate कराची की जानिब से काफ़ी विद Krish में खुश आमदीद। वेलकम टू ऑल आवर व्यूअर्स। मेरा नाम Krish दास है और मैं यहाँ US Consulate General का तर्जुमान हूँ। I'm the spokesperson here at the US Consulate in Karachi. This recorded discussion is part of a regular series through which we provide you with up-to-date information on various topics in a number of diverse areas and share lives and accomplishments of interesting personalities, both from Pakistan and the United States. Today, we will be discussing about the Center for Excellence in Journalism, also referred to as the CEJ, which is based out of the IBA, which is the Institute of Business Administration here in Karachi, Pakistan. Joining us in this chat is a person I greatly admire and respect, Dr. Larry Pintak from Washington State University. He is an award-winning journalist and an author with a PhD in Islamic Studies from the University of Wales. Larry is also a member of the Board of Advisors of the CEJ in Karachi and has also developed its curriculum. The CEJ was set up in 2014 with funding from the US Department of State. And there were three partners. One was the IBA, the Medill School of Journalism at Northwestern University in Chicago, and the International Center for Journalists, that's the ICFJ, based out of Washington, DC. Since 2016, the CEJ has also worked with other media houses to hold and host various trainings and courses. In 2017, the HEC, that's the Pakistani HEC, that's Higher Education Commission, approved the CEJ's proposal to start a MS, that's the Master of Science program in journalism, which is in its third year now. As things stand, CEJ has emerged as Pakistan's leading center for journalism training and is poised to be a center for excellence in journalism. Before we move forward, let me tell you a little more about this person I greatly admire and respect, Dr. Pintak. Larry was the founding dean of the Edward R. Murrow College of Communication at Washington State University from 2009 to 2016, as well as the director of the Kamal Adam Center for Journalism Training and Research at the American University in Cairo. That's a huge distance from Cairo to Washington State, Larry.
It certainly was.
Okay.
A great leap.
A great leap. Okay. Larry also has previously assisted journalism schools in the Arab world and the Caucasus. Larry has been called the foremost chronicler of the interaction between Arab and Western media, and his books and articles focus on America's relationship with the Muslim world, the role of the media in shaping global perceptions and government policy, and the future of journalism in a digital, globalized world. During his career, Larry has covered and reported on the Iran-Iraq war and a variety of other stories across the Middle East. His career extends from the Carter White House to the Indonesian Revolution, Armenia to Zimbabwe, and others. Larry has also won 2 Overseas Press Club Awards and was twice nominated for international Emmys, and his work has appeared in the New York Times, foreignpolicy.com, CNN.com, the International Herald Tribune, the Seattle Times, and a variety of other publications. I could just go on and on, but I wouldn't know where to start exactly. but thank you so much, Larry, for being here and taking time off from your busy schedule to join us for this
My
chat.
pleasure. Anytime I hear that introduction, I always am reminded of how old I am.
Age is all about, it's a state of the mind, isn't it?
Right.
but let me start off by saying, as they say in Urdu, hum aapka istiqbal karte hain, which means welcome to Pakistan.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Let me go directly into my questions, Larry. So tell me a little bit about your. You've been coming frequently to Pakistan. How has your experience been, and which other cities in Pakistan have you visited?
Well, I mean, Pakistan, it feels like is my second home now. I'm here
Absolutely.
every few months, and I've been coming on this project for about, I don't know, 6 or 8 years now, and
Okay.
was coming on other projects before that. Primarily, I'm here in Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad. Obviously, there's a limit to how much I can travel around beyond that.
And I'm sure isn't Karachi your favorite city?
Absolutely.
Larry, tell us a little more about how the CJ came into being. You know, about the CJ. What was the thinking behind the creation of the Center of Excellence in Journalism, and your particular role in this particular project? When it was in project form, and now of course it's a full-fledged institute. If you can tell us, enlighten our viewers on this particular project.
Sure. The State Department official who came up with the idea was someone who had been actually the president of ICFJ at one point, but had been the spokesman in Kabul at the embassy.
Okay. And the ICFJ is, as I mentioned, it's based out of Washington,
Out of Washington, D.C., a training center for journalists.
Okay.
And obviously the U.S. government puts lots of money into journalism training around the world, as it does here in Pakistan. But many of these are short grants, trainings for a few weeks or maybe a year or two, and then it ends. She wanted to create something that was sustainable, that would literally become a center of excellence that people would look to. And so she called me because I had run a similar center in Cairo, at the American University in Cairo, where we had a graduate degree in journalism, the only one at that point in the Arab world, and then a big external training program with a variety of supporters from various governments, etc. So she said, let's clone that here in Pakistan. So that's how I was involved, because it had been this center I had been running.
I see.
So we set to work to figure out, was there an appetite? Were journalists interested in this? And there was a huge appetite.
And that's how it sort of evolved.
Right.
The center. Over the past 4 years, how many journalists have been trained, and where are these journalists now? What are they doing? If you can, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I mean, we're approaching about 1,500 journalists that have been trained at the center.
That's quite
That's a lot of journalists.
I mean, especially in about 2 years.
Yeah,
3
well,
years?
about 4 years.
4 years. Okay.
Yeah. And it's important to remember there are two pieces to the center. There is, as you said, a Master of Science in Journalism, which is a smaller group of younger, for the most part, students. And then there's all of the short-term external training programs for working journalists. So you might be a reporter at Dawn, you might be a reporter at Geo, and you come for a specialized training program in digital journalism or data journalism or environmental journalism. So many of the people who've gone through these programs were already working reporters. And so go back into their newsroom with another layer of expertise, or get a new job, right? This new level of expertise. Others are young journalists who are just getting their feet wet.
And you have people who apply for these courses or the MS programs or program. Are they from across the spectrum?
They're from across the spectrum, and they're from across the country.
Okay.
So, for example, the initial group, the initial cohort in the Master of Science in Journalism, 20 students, about half were women, about a quarter of them were from Karachi. The rest were from across the country, Baluchistan, Peshawar, KPK, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very much a geographic mix. It's a mix of sexes, and it's also a mix of backgrounds. About a third were students who've come right out of bachelor's degrees. About a third were working reporters, young working reporters, and about a third were people in the NGO world who wanted to learn journalism skills.
So it's extremely diverse.
Absolutely.
Excellent. What are the areas where journalists in Pakistan need help from your perspective?
Well, I mean, from the ground up, really. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are excellent journalists here. Many of them are my close friends. But the level of training here, and this is common around the world, it was common in the US, decades ago. The level of training they're exposed to before they go into the newsroom is very low.
Is that a common trend, or is it a new trend?
No, it's a common trend around the world.
Okay.
And it's because many places, I use as a rule of thumb the Arab world, where I spent many years and wrote a book on the evolution of Arab journalism. There, as here, you had a controlled press for a long time, particularly television. And then here you privatized television. About a decade before in the Arab world, they privatized television, the launch of Al Jazeera, et cetera. And then that created an appetite for strong new journalists. And then the education system began to catch up.
Okay.
So for the most part, programs here in Pakistan are more theoretical media studies, media sciences, less hands-on journalism.
Okay.
And that was the case in the Arab world, it was the case in Indonesia, which I know very well. And so now journalism schools are beginning to retool. So CEJ, has the first professional master's degree in journalism. Now that curriculum is available now for any other, it's approved by the HEC, is available for any other school to adapt.
Just emulate that particular model.
Absolutely. It's on the books with the HEC, so
Fantastic.
anyone can use that.
What has the experience, or rather, how has your experience been collaborating and working with the Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism? Because I know they were one of the partners, and you were involved, deeply involved, of course, helping write the curriculum. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm actually a Medill alum.
Okay.
So,
okay. That makes even more sense
right.
now. Okay.
Well, we worked closely. First of all, Medill, many of the external professional training programs that were going on here at the CEJ before the master's degree started were faculty from Medill who were coming out here for a week or two and teaching a specialized course. And then as we moved toward the master's degree, we took 3 young, experienced but relatively young reporters, Pakistani reporters, sent them to Medill to get their own Master of Science in Journalism degree from Medill to prepare them to come back here and teach. So they were good working journalists, then they learned a whole new layer of skills at Medill, and they learned how to teach. And then at the same time, as you said, I created the curriculum, but I worked closely with Medill faculty in getting their input and ideas and reviewing it. So it's very much a group effort.
And since Medill was of course part of this, was one of the partners. You had during the initial phase, you had the professors from Medill come to Karachi to train and teach, etc. Correct?
Right, absolutely. They were here training local professional journalists, and they've been working with the faculty.
Is there still any connection? Do they still maintain? I'm sure that they're friends, but do they still sort of give advice?
Yeah, absolutely. Craig Duff, who was the point person from Medill on the project, is still a member of the CEJ board.
And he's a professor at
right.
Northwestern. Okay.
It's just so it's clear, the reason they're not intimately involved anymore is this was done under a U.S. government grant that has now ended. So it's more of a distance relationship.
Okay, got it. The Masters in Journalism program, the MS program at CJ is in its 3rd year now. How's it going, and how is it different from the other graduate or master's programs? Because that's a question that a lot of people have. Why is it different? What is different about this particular? Why is it unique?
It's night and day from the other master's programs here. And I say this as someone who I've worked with the HEC and other schools to improve the master's programs, the more theoretical master's programs, add some professional things. But the bottom line is that there's a fundamental difference between the MAs and MPhils that exist here and this new Master of Science in Journalism, because this doesn't have a theoretical component. Students are not writing a thesis, they're not studying quantitative and qualitative research methods or theories. They are producing journalism. They are learning how to write a news story. They are learning how to produce a television broadcast. They are learning specialized journalism skills. And it's a very immersive setup. So in the mornings they're in classes, and in the afternoons they're in a newsroom producing stories.
So it's a combination of the practical and the theoretical.
With a strong emphasis on the practical.
Okay, that's good to know. what are the plans for the future of the CEJ, Dr. Pintak?
Hopefully more of the same and better. We are now, journalism students who are out there or aspiring journalists should know that CEJ will soon be advertising the third intake for the Master of Science in Journalism, which will begin in late summer. And we will have a cohort of about 20 students. There are various scholarships available and loans, et cetera, to help them to fund that. And it's something where they're working through their degree closely with news organizations. So, for example, the group in the first cohort were embedded with news organizations during the elections, working at GEO, working at Dawn, et cetera.
And this was across Pakistan?
Across Pakistan.
I mean, all of these students were sort of placed in different news organizations across
exactly. And
different
now
cities.
that first cohort is in their third semester, which means they're out reporting. They're not in the classroom. They're out reporting, and some of them are already working while they're doing their final project for the program. Many of them are in internships, and around the world, once you're in an internship, the odds are you're going to get hired.
Right. And you said the third cohort, you're looking at probably the end of summer, and that would be around the August.
Right. I mean, it's the usual academic cycle here
In Pakistan.
So the applications will be opening up in the next month or two, and they will actually begin classes in late August at some point.
Okay, excellent. That's good.
And it's important to say it's a 3-semester program with a short summer semester as well in the middle. So if you begin the program in this coming August, for example, you would then graduate. You would have the fall semester, the spring semester of courses, and then in the fall you'd be out working and finishing the degree and graduate.
And I just want to add, I mean, it's a tremendous facility that they have at the CEJ. I've been there a few times. And do you want to tell us, our viewers, a little bit about the facility?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, first of all, this was a major investment by the U.S. government.
Okay.
And I'm, you're the diplomat, I'm not, right? So I'm not advertising that part. But this was a $4 million investment by the U.S. government, the second largest single public diplomacy grant in the world. State-of-the-art television studios, state-of-the-art digital newsrooms. I mean, this is much better than many things you find walking into a newsroom at newspapers in Pakistan or television stations.
Larry, do you have any other insights for our viewers who may be interested in looking at journalism as a career? I mean, you have had this diverse experience in your career and as a journalist, as an academic. And apart from that, if you want to add something about the faculty of the CEJ, you said some of them were students who were part of the grant, who trained at Medill, have come back, and then of course the director of the center is Kamal Siddiqui, who used to be a famous editor and journalist himself with the Express Tribune, and who's also had a fantastic career in journalism. If you can tell us a little bit about your insights and about the faculty, that'll also be helpful for our viewers.
I think there's never been a more interesting time to be a journalist. The industry is changing, it's transforming. Yes, we hear about cutbacks here, there, and everywhere, but it's the evolution of the industry from print to digital to television, et cetera, and the merging of platforms. And there's no better place to learn about that than at the CEJ. I mean, you have the opportunity to train under someone like Kamal Siddiqui, who the longtime editor of the Express Tribune, someone who understands all levels of journalism, and it's an unrivaled opportunity. And the faculty there as well, who are young journalists themselves, who are highly trained, and all of these other external trainers who come in. It's the opportunities, someone coming in from the UK teaching about data journalism, someone coming in from the US teaching about environmental journalism. And
I think recently you had someone come and talk to them about creative writing.
Well, right, exactly. Yeah. And that
from the University of Iowa, Dr. Christopher Murrow, and a poet, yeah?
Yeah, no, it's becoming such a crossroads of journalism for not just Karachi and not just Pakistan, but the region.
Thank you, Dr. Pintak. And coming to my last question, have you tried the famed Karachi Biryani? Have you had an opportunity to maybe try it in Karachi?
Whenever I'm at CEJ, whenever I'm in town, every lunch at CEJ is biryani.
Okay, that's good to know. Larry, it has been a great pleasure chatting with you and listening to the remarkable work of the CJ, or the CJ is doing in training the next generation of journalists and promoting a more robust, competitive, and transparent media, or rather, what is called the fourth pillar of democracy.
Indeed.
Thank you again for sharing the information about the Center for Excellence in Journalism and also your wise insights about journalism as a whole.
My pleasure.
And talking about your experience. Really, really appreciate it. A big thanks to all our viewers who joined us during this chat, to all those budding young journalists. The Masters in Journalism program at the CJ is inviting applications in the coming few months, as Dr. Pintak mentioned. Don't forget to apply. Look out for the application. I'm sure it'll come out online. And to find out more about the CEJ and the MS program, please visit cej.iba.edu.pk. Have a good day, shukriya, or Allah Hafiz.